Hi, wherever you are watching me from, this is Dr. Pepe here once again. I hope you are very well. I hope you are very good. So, in my last video, I remember that I was talking about plant morphology, right? So, I was talking about plant morphology, but I missed a particular part of that video. And peradventure, if you've not watched the video before and you are going to be writing your UI POST-UTME this year, please, it's a must that you watch that video. Please make sure you watch it. I'm going to be putting the link in the description of this video, please. So make sure you watch that video. So I missed the particular part, which was the permanently compound leaves. Remember that I said compound leaves are divided into pinnately compound leaves and permanently compound leaves. So I could not talk about permanently compound leaves. I think I just forgot about it. So I'm going to be talking about it in this video before we now move to the main topic of this video, which is plant tissue and higher plants, right? So let's quickly talk about permanently compound leaves. I want you to remember something. Remember when we were talking about leaf arrangement, we said we have word arrangement, we have opposite arrangement, then we have spiral or alternate arrangement. So remember we said word arrangement are those ones that has about 3 to 4 leaves that originate at a particular point. So they now like diverge in a circular path, right? That's what we said about word leaves. The same thing applies to permanent leaves. Permanent leaves are those leaves that originate at a particular point, then they now diverge in a circular path. Do you get? Like 4 to 5 leaves that now forms a circular path just on a single petal. That's what your permanently compound leaves are. Do you get what I'm saying? So I'm going to be giving you examples. So let me check for the examples. The first one is cassava. Remember I was talking about whenever you see cassava, they won't give you cassava directly in your option. It's maniote they are going to be giving you, because maniote is the botanical name for cassava. So they are going to be giving you cassava, which is maniote. Then pakira, we have pakira. Then we have adansonia. Then after adansonia we have baunia. So those are the examples that you are going to be finding under your permanently compound leaf. So that was the only part that I could not talk about in the last video. So let's get straight into the normal video for today. So now we've talked about the root system, then we talked about the leaf system. So now let's move to supportive system, ASAP. So now when we are talking about supportive system, these are where we talk about Parenchyma, Collenchyma. These are majorly your plant tissue. Collenchyma, Parenchyma, and the likes. So I'm going to be picking them one by one. So the first one I will be talking about is the Parenchyma. So what they can ask you about the Parenchyma is that, is it a living cell? Yes, it has a living cell. Take note of that. Parenchyma is a tissue, and you know that before we can have a tissue, we will have cells. So cells come together to form tissue. So it has many living cells. Take note of that. So that's the first characteristics. Then the second one is that, what does it do? It stores food. Take note, it stores food in form of starch and water also. It stores starch and water. That's another second characteristic. Then the third one is that whenever you have a parenchyma and it is filled with chlorophyll, you know chlorophyll is that part of the plant that helps it to what? To photosynthesize. So whenever you have a chlorophyll in the parenchyma, it is called Sclerenchyma. Can you see? It is called a Sclerenchyma. So take note. Then another characteristics of parenchyma tissue is that they are found in the roots, they are found in the stem, and they are found in the mesophyll layer of leaves. Mesophyll layer of leaves. Mesophyll layer of leaves. You know, when we are doing your UTME, you could have seen that we have some types of mesophyll. We have the spongy mesophyll and the palisade mesophyll. At the palisade mesophyll is where your photosynthesis takes place. Can you remember? So now we now say that parenchyma are found in the mesophyll layer of leaves. Take note. So those are the major characteristics of parenchyma tissue. So now we are done with parenchyma. Let's quickly talk about collenchyma. So let's quickly talk about collenchyma. So now when we are talking about collenchyma, what's the major function? You know, for parenchyma, the major function is to store food and water. Take note. That's the major function of parenchyma tissue. Now for collenchyma tissue, what does it do? Its major function is to give flexibility to plants. Flexibility to plants. You know, there are some plants that when you stretch it like this, it's able to come back to its normal form. That's what we call resilience. So collenchyma tissue gives resilience to plants. Like when you stretch it to come back. That's the major function. But now take note of something. Collenchyma tissue is only found in young plants. Young herbaceous plants. Take note of that. It is found in young herbaceous plants. Take notes. Then another characteristics of Collenchyma is that it has thickened cell wall. You know, for plants normally they should have cell wall. So now for Collenchyma, it has come back to its normal form. That's what we call resilience. So Collenchyma tissue gives resilience to plants. Like when you stretch it to come back, that's the major function. But now take note of something. Collenchyma tissue is only found in young plants, young herbaceous plants. Take note of that. It is found in young herbaceous plants. Take notes. Then another characteristics of Collenchyma is that it has thickened cell wall. You know, for plants normally they should have cell wall. So now for Collenchyma, it has a thickened cell wall which is made up of pectin. Take note, pectin. Collenchyma is made up of pectin, right? So now it is also found in the stem and leaves of young herbaceous plants. You know, I already said it. It is found in the stem and leaf of young herbaceous plants. Take note. Then the third one is that it is a living cell. It is a living cell. Now, can you see Parenchyma is a living cell, while Collenchyma is also a living cell. So we've talked about Parenchyma and Sclerenchyma. Now let's move to Sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma. Now, when you're talking about Sclerenchyma is made up of dead cells. Can you now see? It is made up of dead cells. Parenchyma living, Collenchyma living, but Sclerenchyma is dead. Can you see? It is dead. Then its function, its major function is to give support and flexibility to plants. Support and flexibility to plants, but it is found in old plants. Old plants. You know, Collenchyma is found in young plants. Sclerenchyma is found in old plants. So another characteristic of Sclerenchyma is that it also has a thickened cell wall, but that wall is made up of lignin. Lignin, can you see? Lignin. So take note of that. So it is made up of thickened cell wall, which is made up of lignin, and it is also a dead cell. Dead cell. Now we talk about Parenchyma, Sclerenchyma, and Collenchyma, which are the major plant tissue that UI will ask you in your POST-UTME. So now let's move to vascular tissue. So now when we are talking about vascular tissue, what are your vascular tissue? We talk about xylem and phloem, right? Those are your major vascular tissue. So now there is a question in the past question. It says that like an organ in plant that carries out something like the same function as arteries and veins. You know, arteries and veins are found in your circulatory system. So they now ask for another organ in plants that serves the same function. So probably you've seen the question before. If they should ask you that the organ that does the same work as arteries and veins in the plant is called what? It is your xylem and phloem. Xylem transports while phloem also transports, right? And that's the same thing that arteries and veins does. But let's quickly just talk about xylem and phloem so that you can understand what I'm saying. So let's start with xylem. Normally xylem does what? It transports nutrients, mineral nutrients, and water. That's the major function of xylem in the plants. So xylem is now divided into 4 different parts. We have the xylem parenchyma, we have the xylem fiber, we have the trichids, then we have the vessels. Xylem parenchyma, xylem fiber, trichids, and vessels. That's the 4 parts of the xylem. Now let me just pick them one by one. So whenever you see xylem parenchyma, it is living. Remember that we talked about parenchyma, and parenchyma is what? Parenchyma is living. So xylem parenchyma is also living. And let me quickly ask you, parenchyma is for what? Remember, for storage, right? So let's continue. So xylem fiber now. Xylem fiber is dead. Make sure, take note of that. Remember that we said that Sclerenchyma is also dead, right? So xylem fiber is that part of your xylem that is dead. Take notes. Then we also have trichids and vessels. So these are just the normal part of the xylem. Trichids, vessels, xylem, parenchyma, then xylem fiber. Those are the 4 major parts of the xylem. Now, if they should now ask you for the function of xylem, the function is to transport minerals and water. Transport minerals and water. And take notes. Xylem travels unidirectionally. That is just in a single direction. Unidirectionally. Take note of that. So that's majorly everything about xylem. Now let's move on to phloem. So now when you are talking about phloem, phloem is also divided into 4 parts. We have phloem parenchyma, we have the phloem fiber, we have the sieve tube, and we have the companion cells. That's the 4 main parts. Then they should ask you that which one is dead. That's what? Phloem fiber. Same thing for xylem fiber, remember. Then we also have Xylem Parenchyma. That part is also living. Take notes. Then we have the sieve tube and the companion cells, right? So they are also the parts of your phloem. Now, if they should now ask you for the major function of phloem, the major function of phloem is for transportation of food, right? Then also it travels bidirectionally. That means two, right? Bidirectionally. So if they should ask you that the movement of food, translocation, take note of that. You remember that when you were preparing for your JAMB, there was something like transpiration. Transpiration is losing water vapor, right? Losing water vapor. While glutation is what? Losing normal water droplets. Remember. So that's basically everything about Xylem. Now we've talked about the root system and the leaf system. Let's quickly move to the higher plants classification. So whenever you are talking about higher plants, we said our plant is divided into two categories. We have the cryptogams and the phanerogams. Cryptogams and phanerogams. So cryptogams are those plants that don't have seed at all. They are seedless plants. They are not made up of seed. Whenever you want to plant them, you don't use seed. They are not made up of seed. So now we now have subsection under cryptogams. We have the schizophytes, which is the first one. We have the schizophytes. We have the talophytes, which is the second one. We have the bryophytes, which is the third one. We have the pteridophytes, which is the last one under cryptogams. They are all seedless plants. Then we now have the phanerogams, which is another subsection that I already told you guys under higher plants. Phanerogams are seedful plants. They are made up of seed. Whenever you want to plant them, you plant seed. And a section under it is called spermatophytes. So now there is a question in the past question. They were asking for the level of evolution among plants. You know, whenever we are talking about evolution, we say it is how organism changes from the oldest species to the newest species, right? So now when we are now talking about evolution in plants, before we add seedful plants, we already had seedless plants. Yes, seedless plants, which are your cryptogams. So now if you now want to arrange their level of evolution from the oldest to the newest, the first thing you are going to be taking is your schizophytes. Your schizophyte, then you move to your talophytes. Then from your talophytes you move to your bryophytes. From bryophytes you move to pteridophytes. Then after pteridophytes you now move to spermatophytes, which is the seedful plants. So now take note of something. Whenever you have a plant that has vascular tissue, those plants are called tracheophytes. They are called the tracheophytes. Another tracheophytes, you have the spermatophytes and the pteridophytes. They are the only types of plants that has vascular tissue, which is your xylem and your phloem. Take note of that because I think I saw one of those questions in your past question. So now, just to conclude higher plants, what they can just ask you is examples under all of these things that I've said. Like examples, they can ask you for the subsection under cryptograms, and they can also ask you for the subsection under phanerogams, and also like some examples under that same subsection, like schizophytes. They can ask you for example, talophyte. They can ask you for example. So I'm going to be giving you one by one. So the first one I mentioned is what? Schizophytes. An example under schizophyte is your bacteria. Take note, bacteria. Then the next one is your talophytes. The example under talophytes is your blue-green algae. Blue-green algae. From the word blue-green, you know, another name for blue-green algae is what? Cyanobacteria. From the word blue-green, whenever you combine blue and green, what do you have? You have cyan. That's where you got the name cyano. So we now name them cyanobacteria. Take note of that. And they can also ask you, cyanobacteria can photosynthesize because they have chlorophyll. Take notes. So after talophytes, you now have your bryophytes. Yes, your bryophytes. Your bryophyte is just made up of mosses and liverworts. After bryophytes, you now have pteridophytes. Pteridophyte is mainly made up of fern, like fern. Can you see? Fern. And another name for fern is Dryoptera. So we've talked about everything under cryptograms, which pteridophyte is the last one. So now let's go to spermatophytes. So spermatophyte, I said that they are what? They are the seedful plants, right? Whenever you plant them, you are going to be using seed. So spermatophyte is now divided into two. We have the angiosperms and the gymnosperms. Angiosperms and gymnosperms. The difference between angiosperm and gymnosperm is that angiosperm is made up of a covered seed. It has a covered seed. While gymnosperm is open. It is open. But they can now ask you something. Gymnosperm seed are open, right? But they used to have the acid in a specific position, like in a specific point as part of the plant. Can you remember? Cone, there's cone. Gymnosperm bear the acid in the cone. Take note of that. So now I've talked about angiosperm and I've talked about gymnosperm. So you now remember that your angiosperm is now divided into your monocots and your dicots. Your monocotyledonous plants and the dicotyledonous plants. That's what the angiosperm is made up of. But your gymnosperm, one thing about gymnosperm is that there's a question also in your past question. They were asking for the categories under gymnosperm. Your gymnosperm is now divided into phyla, which is the first one is the conifers. Your conifers. The second one is the cycads. Can you see? Cycads. Then Nymphophyta. While the last one is the Nymphophyta. The G there is silent. That's why we call it Nymphophyta. I think we've done justice to everything you just need to know about plant morphology, higher plants, and plant tissue. So what's now left for you to do now is to make sure you revise your notes. Everything I've said, make sure you revise it. Please revise it and make sure you solve your past question. Solve your past question very well, because that's what will make you to forget everything I've talked about. Please make sure you revise everything I've said. So best of luck in your UI POST-UTME exam. I wish you best of luck. I'm expecting your good results. I've pasted my number in the description of this video. Message me to send your results to me. Let's celebrate together. And if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, that's the little help you can do for me. Please make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Bye.